please stand, and at this time, Mike Kelly will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now lead in a moment of silence.
I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. I would ask that if you do have a cell phone with you, that you can turn it off completely at this time. Mary, if you would call roll call.
Kelly.
Here.
Meadows.
Here.
Beach.
Here.
Livingston.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Ehlers. Here. Heaton.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Thank you, Mary. Hearing of citizens' comments at this time, you may go to the podium and make a 5-minute statement. You sign your name in and which ward you live in. So please come forward if you are interested in making a statement. No public comments? Okay. Approval of the minutes of the February 3rd, 2014 council meeting. Those are in your packet, and you've had plenty of time to look at those. Were there any additions or corrections to be made to those? Mike?
Yes, my one attempt to be witty at any of these meetings was dropped out and changed to full steam ahead. I did say full stream ahead. I want that recorded.
Duly noted.
I think, and now I got to laugh a second time. That's
Yeah,
so I'm giving. All right.
You did. We probably should note that in the minutes also, that you did get quite a chuckle.
That's all I have, ma'am.
Thank you. Changes will be made.
Thank you.
Anything else? Consent items, we have none this evening. Presentation of accounts and claims. Mary, when you're ready, if you would please share that.
Ordinance appropriating money. Be it ordained by the Council of the City of Boonville as follows. Section 1. For the purpose of paying salaries and various accounts against the City of Boonville, which have been allowed by the Council at the regular meeting thereof on February 18, 2014, the sum of $236,976.12. General Fund, $148,988.15. Sanitation, $3,978.13. CIP tax, $3,364.74. Waterworks, $18,706.11. Capital projects, 0. Wastewater, $29,469.45. Tourism, $2,331.54. Gaming, $30,138 even. Parks Water, 0. Section 2, the bookkeeper is hereby authorized and instructed to draw checks on the respective city bank accounts in favor of the persons whose salaries and accounts have been allowed as above, amounting to $236,976.12, being the total amount of money above appropriated. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage. First reading on February 18, 2014, read for the second time this 18th day of February 2014, since a copy was made available prior to the meeting.
Second reading, title only.
Ordinance appropriating money.
Morris?
Mayor, I move we approve this ordinance.
Morris?
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call.
Kelly.
Yes.
Meadows.
Yes.
Beach.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Ehlers.
Yes.
Heaton.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Unfinished business, item A, the quarterly report presentation by the Katy Bridge Coalition. And I believe Mr. Ted Curtis will be making that presentation.
Thank you for your time and indulgence. I'll be relatively short. You have a paper in front of you that has the summary of the fundraising, and I commend you all for taking on this project, especially with federal funds. Excuse me. I work for the City of Columbia, handling federal funds on bike projects, and I can appreciate how difficult and frustrating it can be. If you notice on your sheet, we've been involved in serious fundraising on the private side. Just read it off real quickly. We have in our foundation account $159,000. Katy Bridge checking account, almost $23,000. We have a memorial account set up for people willing to donate for special causes, nearly $9,000 in that. We've been working heavily to get money to with tax credits to the Missouri Development Fund. So we have now a credit. Both of us together have a credit of $45,000 with the state, and recently the city has accepted a UMB check for $5,000. So total private fundraising so far is $241,000. Katy Bridge Development Fund is another $60,000 plus federal money of $430,000 for a sum total of committed reserves of $732,000. Now we did list the phase 1 construction estimates. Now with federal money and stuff, we won't know what the actual costs are until it actually comes in. We get bids and the project is done, so I didn't list anything other than the estimates, but based on the fundraising so far, it appears we have adequate funds to go ahead with the phase 1 of the project and bid it out and construct it. So we as a committee are actively looking at the phase 2 project, about raising funds for that on the private side, and working with you all to try to get more federal money and other grant money, because over $1 million, as first estimate is $1.8 million. It's going to take more than just private money. It's going to take another MoDOT grant as the money comes in and those grants become available. So again, we look forward to working with you. We see our job as private fundraising, as doing publicity and events on the bridge as it opens, and really generating the public interest in the project and keeping the public interest going. And we certainly are proud of the partnership between us as a nonprofit and you all. We're already out working on publicizing the project around the state. Several of the other members are going to be making a presentation at the Missouri Parks and Recreation Conference coming up this month. And we're planning on our upcoming Katy Bridge Wine Walk, which will be September 6th this fall. Again, local fundraising, getting people involved in the project. I think that, unless you have some questions, I think that concludes the formal part. We would like to make a presentation of the first check from us to you all. And I think Paul is going to do that.
Okay. For money.
I will. No. This is just a down payment. We're in the process of requesting
Smart.
you keep that one, and that is a small amount. Design, there we go, sorry, I lost the word. For some reason, design didn't strike. And so as soon as those funds are in the bank, we will finish out. And so that'll be operating funds to get that. How about a round of applause? We're so fortunate to have Ted Curtis. He was the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. Okay. I don't know where my voice goes in this room, but it disappears, doesn't it? I just wanted to give you a little more background on Ted Curtis. He was very private about how he got here, but we met, and some of you may remember he even came and spoke to our city council when we first started working on saving the bridge. He was the executive director for the Chain of Rocks Bridge in St. Louis, all through their development as they were in turn developing it for pedestrian use. So we feel very fortunate to have him join our steering committee, our board for the coalition. So thank you for tonight, and thank you for being here
to all the people that are in the audience, too.
Hold on, Paul.
Does anyone have a question? Yeah, it looks like we've got a couple of questions, so I don't know who wants to take the questions, so.
Ted.
Noah?
What kind of timeline are we looking at? I'm assuming plans for the design has to be done and paid for, and then from those design plans, bids will go out. Do we have any idea what kind of time frame we're looking at here?
Kate, do you want to help answer this question?
For the transportation enhancement funds that we have on the bridge, the final plans were due February 1st. We're a little behind because UP is reviewing them currently, but MoDOT is fine with those, so we're anticipating that to happen March 31st. The final plans will go to MoDOT. We're still aiming for bids to go out in spring, so construction should start, hopefully June, July, and they anticipate about 5 to 6 months construction time.
Okay, thanks.
Morris, you had a question?
How much is your check and what's it for?
I don't know, I didn't open it. It's for design work on phase 1.
Okay.
And the total amount will be on the order of $23,000.
It's for, well, it's not for $23,000.
There'll be a transfer.
It's for $639. But there was a transfer lapse with the foundation, and they didn't realize that they needed to put the request in several days in advance. So I believe, is that correct, Paula?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so as soon as that is transferred into the checking account, we'll just write a check to the city. Will have it to operate.
Yeah.
Deal with HDR.
HDR.
HDR, okay, it's not wrong when I said it. So that is covering their costs for working on the design.
Yeah. And that's the amount, Kate had calculated it all out, and so that's the amount that we had billed them for, and that's what they
I just
presented us.
couldn't give her a blank check. So, okay, we can do this.
Any other questions? Just want to make a comment. Ted mentioned, kind of promoting this and that sort of thing, and I know that is very important. And I have asked staff to work with you on when things are going on, if there's some photo opportunities or things like that. They're going to work with you to get as much publicity about this as we possibly can.
Well, and
So,
one of the things we're very aware of as a coalition has been working at this as long as we have, your success is if you can build that partnership with public also, so they have a vested interest in this. What we see is they're looking to us, so what's happening? Is anything happening?
Mm-hmm.
And so the more we can get information, and that was why we did the exchange of money tonight, was just to let them know that was a step we are working on. As soon as those funds are been transferred, they'll be in the city's account then.
so far there hasn't been a lot of interesting photo opportunities, but now the work begins. So
Work
you're going to
begins
see
and-
things, and it's going to be much more of an opportunity to publicize
We're
that.
hoping by September the 6th, there'll be something visually, even if it's a tent pitch there, at least something showing that where they're working and that the vision is moving forward. What we have to hope for is good weather.
Right.
Might be we may even have the ability just to have someone down there to do a narrative as visitors come to town that weekend, because that's also the week of the steam engine show, so we have a lot of out-of-staters that come.
And then Ted mentioned the tax credits, and those are a very, very important part of the Phase 1 funding. So we do need to, sell some more tax credits.
We are working on them, yes.
Okay.
They're very valuable.
And we are too, so we need to work together on that, but that is a critical part of the first
We've had
phase.
26 people step forward so far for tax credits, and I know there are some that are still kind of calculating. So hopefully those will materialize quickly here.
Okay,
And part of our strategy is we've got 2 banks have contributed $5,000 each, so we're going to try to talk to other banks to see if they want to be challenged too.
good,
We'll see how that works.
very good. Any other questions or comments?
We appreciate your support.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll see you in a quarter, 3 months. Item B, updates on 8 Riverside Drive and 821 East Morgan. Steve Haig, Building Inspector, will give us an update on that.
To start with, well, I think we took these through the dangerous building process back in October. 8 Riverside, if you all recall, it was a structure fire that did some significant damage. We had a guy step in and bought it. He is rehabbing it. Looks like he's going to be wrapping that project up around the end of March. He's already got a for sale sign in the front yard, so he has moved along quite well on that, and he's done a good job with it. The other one on Morgan Street, the Morgan Street Baptist Church property. I've had several conversations with him. Within these conversations, there was some personnel changes with the history of this church, and now there's some more personnel changes. Throughout those personnel changes, there were some members left, and when I did the title search, or had the title search done on that, the trustees that was listed in the title search are no longer members of that church and are no longer trustees. So in order to make sure we had proper notification for ourselves, I have now tracked down the new trustees, and I have sent them another final 30-day notification. We're not going to go through the process of having the hearing all over again and everything like that. We just wanted to ensure that we had proper notification to the new trustees. So.
And they are amicable to?
They are, and even some of the members that knew the trustees that was sent the letters the first go around, they knew that they was no longer members nor trustees, and they had already, I've already had contact with them and had conversations with them. They have already talked to a contractor. The contractor I've talked with him a couple of times. So they are moving forward with it. It's not been as fast probably as I would like to have seen, but given the circumstances with that, a lot of the old membership to that church is just now starting to come back. So they're in the early stages of kind of building their funds back up again, and that was some of the questions was well, how much typically does a demo run, and because we're just now reestablishing and they haven't got a whole lot of money built up in the funds. But from what I've gathered, I do think they have enough there to go ahead and proceed with the demo. But more than anything, we just wanted to make sure that we had proper notification to the new trustees and new members. So
good idea.
Okay.
Are these the only last two? Are these the only 2 active right now?
I'm sorry?
Are these the only 2 active ones right now?
They are the only 2 active. I've got 3 more that I have pictures. I have the title searches, and so those are something that will be coming forth.
I noticed in the budget, your budget's less this year or next year than it was this year for this. Is that an indication that we're seeing in light at the end of the tunnel?
No, not really. I mean, to be honest with you, yes, we have. I think with the next 3 that I'll be sending through here just shortly, I think that's going to put us over the 50 count on what we have been able to do through our dangerous demo process. So, it's been slow going. Like I said, these things, they're not easy with the notifications, especially when you have non-resident ownership. They're kind of hard to track down. It's kind of hard to get notification to, but we've stuck with it, and some of them have been a little slower going than others. And as Earl alluded to earlier, here lately we've had success that people, they're taking the initiative to tear them down and pay for them on their own without that having to come out of our budget. So, okay. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Item C, discussion on a redevelopment plan for Kemper Campus by Dr. Marcia Drennan and related Kemper Campus maintenance report of January 27th, 2014. You'll recall that Dr. Drennan was in attendance last time and did give a draft of a redevelopment plan for the council's consideration. And council requested that it be put on the agenda tonight for discussion. So I will open up the floor for discussion. Ned?
Since I asked for this to be on there, maybe I should go ahead and lead.
Okay.
Dr. Drennan's report was presented, and as Yogi Berra would say, it's deja vu all over again, which actually is a compliment to what has gone on before now. Boonville purchased the campus out of bankruptcy and foreclosure in 2003. Neither the bank nor the owners/trustees of the campus left the buildings in any good shape at all. Indeed, they weren't even weatherized. Yet they still showed fairly well at that time. Shortly after the purchase, the council and the mayor assigned the task of selling the properties to the IDA and the economic developer, who was Sarah Gallagher at the time. And I was with the IDA. We started the process with several meetings with 3 alumni groups to see the interest and funding opportunities. And of course, all of us were at that point interested in saving not only the buildings, but also the memorabilia. And the alumni groups were very good about getting in there and getting the removable memorabilia out of there. We did have a first offer, legitimate offer to purchase, came from the Hintons, with legitimate escrow monies and legitimate cash deposits inside their companies to renovate and manage the property as a bad boy school. After 2 public meetings and adequate background investigation, the city council at that time properly decided to refuse the offer, and the escrow monies were returned. Sarah Mostly, plus myself and Steve Tillman, did most of the tours over the next few years. As we were approached and accepted the advice and the counsel of Adam Jones, Neil Ubeline, and Craig Scranton, who was from BNIM architectural firm. They put together the Kemper Development LLC to put together a deal where they would recruit lessors and own and manage the property. The council at that time wanted to sell the whole property all at once. Their first estimates to re-up all of the buildings except for Windsor Hall, which is the one in the very back, was approximately $32 million. Several prospects were garnered, a lot of showings were completed, and 2 somewhat adequate deals were worked through to their ends. One of those deals, they could not raise enough funds to provide a long-term picture of being able to do the campus. And the other one disappeared due to I think the proper word is change of management. I don't know how else to say that, but that's, I think that's how that happened. About the time that the Frederick was completed, Sarah put together a meeting of local officials, dignitaries, both from Lynn Tech as well as from State Fair. That was our first time to meet Dr. Drennan, for a visioning meeting for the campus for multi-use, not just as a school. It was a great meeting. Jim Gann facilitated that meeting, and a similar outline to what we saw from Dr. Drennan was garnered. Subsequently, the council decided they were frustrated with the lack of success from Kemper Development LLC and decided that staff should market the campus. Craig Scranton was retained to help with architectural work. When Mary Thatcher was sworn, she started a Kemper steering committee. Jim Gann facilitated that meeting directly to her, and a similar outline to what we saw from Dr. Drennan, including Jim Gann, was garnered committee. Subsequently, they worked a few things, including what we now can call Development LLC, and decided that staff should market the campus. It was through this that Dr. Drennan and the mayor put together the architecture library and learning center, which cost the city approximately Mary Thatcher was $1,000 to renovate. She started, and from which Jim Gann facilitated that $24,000 to her. similar outline, which is a 15-year lease from Dr. renewals, including Jim Gann on that committee. Then another visioning, they worked to council deciding, including what we successfully called Development LLC and an out-of-town facilitator. The document was produced out of that, and now we accept, the council accepts Dr. Drennan's report. Her report, as she admitted, resembles the Isle of Capri visioning results, which also resemble the visioning results from the Frederick meeting. We've had now 3 visioning meetings on the Kemper campus without substantive change, and the results speak for themselves. Thanks to Jim Gann and Kate's efforts, we received a grant of $1.3 million to help renovate the Science Hall, and State Fair is supposed to lease it for IT teaching. The expected total cost of renovation is somewhere close to $3.4 million, which after the EDA grant leaves an expense to the city of $2 to $2.1 million. And a lease of approximately, this because it has not been done, but of approximately $35,000 to $40,000 per year, which produces a fairly lengthy payback. State Fair has passed a motion to do the lease, but as of yet, no lease has been done. The council passed this arrangement with State Fair and with EDA on a vote of 7 for and 1 against. An interesting note in the middle of this is that the original estimate to renovate Science Hall was $1.7 million, approximately 50% of what it's going to end up costing today. One last item on renovation that was originally estimated at $32 million. As you can see from Science Hall, the estimate was effectively doubled in 11 years. If we were to use some common sense and apply the same doubling to the rest of the campus, then the total campus renovation would now be at $64 million. But of course, we've got library learning already done, and we've got Science Hall already done. To give you perspective, when Windsor Hall was built, the trustees decided to install a campus-wide heating system. So in the bowels of Windsor Hall is a huge boiler system. And there are pipes running everywhere underground to all of the rest of the buildings to provide hot water heat for the whole campus. A minute ago, I mentioned to you that they didn't winterize anything. They didn't. So one of the reasons that the cost of Kemper campus renovation becomes such a huge issue is that effectively you have no heating or cooling system in any of the buildings except the Library Learning Center, which was separated when it was renovated by the Kemper trustees. It's an extraordinary challenge because of the size of these buildings. So you need to remember this when we start to see these numbers coming in for the renovation and the rebuilding of the campus buildings, is that there's a lot to get done. So now let me deal with my dissenting vote. And the way I'd like to handle this is simply to say, I own and manage residential rental properties. Noah, Steve, Mike, all have responsibility for real estate to sell here in Boonville. The 4 of us have good direct experience with buying and selling and leasing properties. So Steve, I'm going to pick on you. It's your night on the box. Let's dream that tomorrow, a very nice couple with their 2 teenage children contact you to tour your property on the corner of Poplar and Main. They're moving to Boonville from Columbia, which we are getting some of that, which is very nice. They like older properties. The kids are graduating out of high school and into college in the next few years, and they want to change and the peace and the wonderful attributes of a small town life here in Boonville. They're qualified financially, so you and their family tour the house. You explain your plans for what you're going to do to the house. They ask lots of questions and they express interest. And they make an appointment for the next day to come back and talk to you. When they come back, they have a list of changes they would like to incorporate in the property in order to be completely satisfied with the property. They'd like to have granite countertops, ceramic tile, bathroom and kitchen floors, a nice reverse osmosis water system for the whole house, and hardwood and cherry cabinets. You estimate those changes. You give them the price. They agree on the price, and they vote as a family to do the deal. Now, Steve, before you go out and you buy those extra materials, those more expensive materials than what you planned to buy, and before you begin construction to get that house done in the time that they want to get it done, what are you going to want to have?
I just ordered the cabinets 2 days ago, so that's almost not going to happen.
And they're gone. Well done.
Well, you'd have to have a major down payment just to make up for the upgrades.
All right, so you're going to want an escrow deposit equal to the added cost.
Sure.
Okay. What else are you going to want?
A big down payment would be nice.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Signed contract.
A completed and signed real estate contract for sale that sets out all of the terms. Now, are you going to spend a dime until you have that?
If I didn't know the people, no.
So this is what you're going to need to secure your deal. And Noah's going to go through the same thing on the property that he has to sell. And Mike's going to go through the same thing on the property that he has to sell. And I go through the same thing with every new tenant that I bring in. Right? At least that wasn't me this time. They might come back to you and say, well, we voted as a family to do this deal. Right? That should be all you need. But it's not how it works in the real world. It's not how it's done. That's not secured. So the question becomes, should we as a council, to secure the Science Hall deal with State Fair, for any lesser reasons than we would do it personally? And the answer to that question for me is no. And that was the reason for my no vote. The reason number 2 for the no vote, had to do with the assignment of the money to renovate the property. And I'm not happy that we're using ball field money to renovate the property. So, Mayor Thatcher, I move to instruct staff not to expend any more money on the Science Hall renovation until State Fair Community College and the City of Boonville have executed a proper lease encompassing the same terms and including the same square foot of rent as the Library Learning Center, and contingent only upon the renovation being completed.
Do I hear a second to this motion?
I second it.
Discussion?
Go, Steve.
Ned, the State Fair Community College we kind of have a working relationship with these people. I mean, that's different than somebody just coming up out of the blue. And, I mean, we do have a working relationship with them.
Well, I believe we've talked to them about this, and I'll refer to legal counsel and city administrator. I don't believe they will sign a contract until after the building is complete. Megan, can you help me with that?
No?
no, you can't help me, or no,
That's
they
right.
won't?
No, I can't help you with that.
Okay. Earl, can you?
I don't know, I just, in their minds, they're not the one that's driving the thing. They're not asking to have it, they're not asking to come over here and play the role. We're asking them to come over here and play the role. That was Jim Grand's vision, is to have them come. Frankly, they're probably not the only provider in the world that could do what they need to do. You know, so I don't know. The grant says the lease is due before the final drawdown, if I remember, which is like 3 years from now.
Right.
So, everything I've heard from them is that they, in fact, as late as today, they were sitting in on a meeting that they're fine with it. But, I don't know.
Look,
Mike?
I want to address that point. I first want to say on your analogy of the properties that you gave to Steve, put him on the spot, I'll jump on that subject real quick and say that I have a scenario right now where I don't have a buyer. I'm remodeling a house. I'm hoping to have a buyer for it someday. I'm building what I believe the market will bear. I'm deciding whether I need granite countertops or different kind of cabinets and so forth. I'm doing that all on my own prior to finding a buyer. And I'm hoping I'll find a buyer that will pay the price that I will end up with as being a reasonable thing for me to bear at the end. I don't know. I'm probably taking some risks there. I may lose, I may win, but that's the risk you take when you do real estate before you have a contract.
Right.
In this case, this is a scenario where we don't have a contract yet, but we have a vision. And the vision that we have is that an educator will want to have a program on that campus. It may not be State Fair. I'm not saying they're not the right ones. They've been a good partner so far, and who knows what will happen when that time comes. However, it could be that we form a partnership with someone else that has better tools to provide what we believe that school would need to offer at that time. It could be State Fair, but if they're not willing, it could be someone else. It depends on the partnerships we form. We talk about having industry having a relationship with us too. So the people that would pay for these kinds of things is not just the university that would provide the educational services, but hopefully there would be some sort of give and take with a business partner that would like to have those services fostered for their benefit as well. So hopefully this is something that is a need for the region, for the state, for Boonville to grow into the future in a higher education level beyond our secondary school systems. It may be State Fair, it may not be. That's the only thing I wanted to bring up. I don't know what it is yet either, but we believe there's a need. So we're putting something out there based upon the fact that we believe there's a need and someone that's going to buy into it.
I think we have to look at this as a developmental site. Instead of having a piece of land out here, we have a building where people can come and teach or train or do whatever. I mean, you look at those buildings down there, I mean, if you don't do something down there sooner or later, they're just all going to fall down. But
Noah?
I think some of the comments have been made. I guess my comment to some of the comments that have been made is analogies are all fun to work with, but this isn't our land. This isn't our building. This isn't our property. So the risk we may take as individuals in our own businesses is one thing. I take my fiduciary responsibility to the citizens that we represent to a much higher level than I do my own personal business. So I think I don't want to get hammered down in this, what would we do if it was our own private land? Because it's not our private land. It's the citizens of Boonville's land. So I think, although I disagree with some of the comments that are made, if you brought up any good comment, Ned, I think it was that as council people, we can't be looking at this as its own private land. It's a citizen's land. We need to be careful. I mean, granted, we could, like both Mike and Steve have pointed, we could call it a piece of development land and we could pump a lot of money into it. But we are taking a risk. And we do put $3.4 million into this building, $2 million of our own and 1.4 from a grant, or whatever it is. We are taking a risk. And if we get to the end of the rainbow and there's nobody there to use this building, it's a pretty expensive risk to take. So if anything, whether I agree or disagree with some comments that have been made by different people, I certainly think it is something we need to think about. It's a big risk.
Becky?
Another comment I said, and I think about, we just looked at the administration building and the cost of demolition. And if we're not going to put money into a building and something to refurbish it to have a usage and someone to come in and utilize that, then we're looking at demolition. And we'd be looking at, I don't know how much it would cost to demolish that building. We know what it would cost to demolish the administration building, but it's going to be substantial. And I'd rather see us put money into something that is going to grow rather than something that's not.
Ned?
I take your advisement, well. But having marketed the buildings, having toured potential customers, having spent hours with alumni people, presidents of alumni groups, trying to get them to participate in the risk that the city had already taken. And also having taken a civics lesson from a man I highly respect the other day about representative democracy. I come to this issue with no activity for 11 years. I come to this issue having spent a lot of time trying to convince people to take this property. And I come to this issue with a constituency that pretty strongly would probably choose to spend that $2 million in another way, as opposed to taking a risk on a building that we know nobody's been interested in for 11 years. So, for me, if we're going to risk $2 million, I'd like that risk to be something that my constituents want us to do, as opposed to taking a risk on something that we've been unsuccessful in marketing. The state fair deal would be the best thing that could happen, so why not secure it? I don't have a difficulty with that. I don't have difficulty going and talking to them if that's what it takes to get it secured so that it can be done. I mean, even the secured deal is a huge risk. Think about it. Right now, we got a 15-year lease with 5-year renewals on the Library Learning Center that we spent $800,000 on. Now we're going to spend $2 million for a $40,000, let's say a $40,000 lease. You know what the payoff, Steve, is just as well as I do. You do too, Mike. I mean, and are we going to have it long enough to get it paid off? This is a huge risk. And if I'm going to represent my constituency correctly, I want it secured. And that's what it's up to me. You know, you made a good point, Noah. It's up to us representing our citizens correctly. And I think that's what needs to be done.
Mark?
I call for the question.
Okay. Roll call. Would you please repeat the motion as you made it, Ned?
Mary, I've got these for you, by the way. and I did type them this time, so you don't have to figure out my writing.
I appreciate that.
Mayor Thatcher, I move to instruct staff not to expend any more monies on the Science Hall renovation until State Fair Community College and the City of Boonville have executed a proper lease encompassing the same terms and including the same square foot of rent as the Library Learning Center lease, and contingent only upon the renovation completion.
Everyone understand the motion?
I'm going to hand that down there.
As a point of order, I don't think we can use a call the motion in an attempt to stop discussion. If there's other people that like to say something, I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to say. I wasn't keeping track, but if anybody hasn't said something, I think they have a right to. And I actually have one more, just a question for the administrator, as far as, what was your comment earlier about the resolution? We have a resolution from them, correct? From the State Fair Community College. They made a resolution basically saying they're interested in it. I mean, I don't know, I don't want you to quote it because we don't have it, but
In their board meeting.
in their board meeting, right.
Was it a motion or a resolution?
I believe it was a resolution, I believe.
I don't
Was that-
remember for sure.
Okay, well, whatever it was, I was just looking for the verbiage that they had said that there was some, I wish we had it on hand, to tell you the truth. I thought there was something on hand that said, or something in the resolution that said, as of the date they voted, they were in agreement of doing it at a certain time. Oh, I know what it was. You were talking about the final draw or something. Can you elaborate on that?
That's an EDA thing.
That's an EDA.
That's when they put the requirement, they have an approved contract through their offices before we took a final draw from the grant money.
That was for the EDA, not State Fair.
That was not State
Two
Fair.
different.
State Fair did affirm their intentions in a motion or resolution at their board meeting back in, November or something it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Becky?
Just a clarification question. It's on the agenda tonight as unfinished business for discussion. Should it go on the agenda at a future time for voting? I think we might as well get it over.
Well, it's a motion, it's not a resolution or.
I have a question on this. If I read the motion as stated here, that the motion to not expend any more money on the Science Hall renovation until, as it stands right now, we've made an agreement with the EDA to go forward, which has been voted on, which you identified, Ned. If we were to go forward with this motion, how does that affect a previous resolution we passed?
Well, assuming you do follow through on the project, I guess it probably wouldn't have anything, because their time frame to do it is relatively lengthy, but any delay will mean you don't get in fall of 15, which was the goal from Jim.
I see, okay.
Any other comments anyone wants to make? Morris? Anyone else? I have to disagree with you on one thing, probably more than one, but the one I'm going to talk about right now. You said to use ball field money on this project is not right, and I think that's a misstatement. If you think ball fields, if you think all the ball field money is going to pay for that, I don't think you understood any of the 2 hours of conversation that we just had. There's plenty of money to do these things. So I think you're trying to kind of stir the pot there by getting the ball field people, which is it going to be, ball fields or Kemper? And I don't think that's fair. So that's my comment. Any other comments before we call roll? Roll call.
Kelly,
No?
Meadows,
No.
Beach,
Yes.
Livingston,
No.
Carter,
Yes.
Ayers,
No.
Eaton,
Yes.
Young.
No.
Mary, what is the vote, please?
5 no, 3 yes.
Okay. So the motion is defeated. Now let's get back to whether or not we want to, what we want to do with this redevelopment plan. Do we want to accept it as presented or make some alterations, or what do we want to do with this? No.
Well, I think the redevelopment plan is really a living document. So I think I want everybody to understand that mostly, because even if we approve it just the way it was written, it's not setting anything in stone. And in fact, I guess my question would be, if we do agree to this as a vision, Is the Kemper Committee gonna run with that vision? Is the economic development arm of the city government gonna run with it? I guess my question is who's gonna take up this vision and push it along? Because Ned did make some good comments that this is the third time and it's very similar vision, and we've gotta get traction, we've gotta get going with it. We can vote this in all day long. My question is who is going to manage this vision and move it forward?
Well, I think the reason that this document was put on paper, we've had all these ideas over the 11 years, 10 years, whatever, and we've never had anything actually as a strategic plan where it's been put on paper. So what Dr. Drennan's task was to go back over those 11 years and talk to people now, go through the files and come up with a document that when we have people who come to town, and we do have people who come to town and look at the campus and they go, what's your plan? And we go, well, we've talked about a lot of things, but we don't have anything on paper, but we maybe like to do this in this building, or maybe like to do this. If we have a plan on paper, and like you say, it's a living document, this is not set in stone, and I think she said that many times. It can be changed in any way you want it to. But we can give it to them, and they can look at it and say, okay, well, maybe we would like to, participate in this part, or whatever. So, but that's what this document is for, is to move along in the planning process. A strategic plan is a very important part of the process. And that's what we're doing, is getting it on paper so that we can move forward to other steps. But it'll be up to the Economic Development Department, it'll be up to Planning Department, it'll be up to city staff, it'll be up to you, all the other councilmen, to make sure that it's moved forward.
I make a motion, we accept the vision then,
As presented.
as presented.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Becky? Discussion.
Well, like I said, like Noah said, it's a good point. It's a living document, so when we accept this vision as stated, we aren't trying to say it doesn't change and adapt. Is that going to be made clear in our motion and vote? I mean, is that going to be made clear to whoever takes this document? Oh, let me ask you this: who is going to own this document, this vision, after we voted in, if we voted in?
Well, I suppose the City of Boonville.
Okay. So the City of Boonville knows it's a living document and needs to be adapted as opportunities or things change. Okay. All right.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Just to add to my previous comment, if it is voted as accepted, we need to do something with it this time. Something needs to happen.
Right. I agree 100%. Roll call.
Noah, could you please restate your motion? You just want to accept the redevelopment plan.
Accept the redevelopment plan for Kemper Campus as presented by Dr. Drennan. I believe it's related Kemper Campus maintenance report of January 27th. We need to identify her plan. Is it more identifiable in her?
Actually, the plan is dated February the 3rd. The redevelopment report is something else.
Is that it right there?
27th.
May I see that, please?
February the 3rd.
So make a motion to accept a redevelopment plan for the Kemper Campus 2014 through 2019, prepared by Dr. Marcia Drennan, February 3rd, 2014.
Okay. Okay.
Kelly?
Yes.
Meadows?
Yes.
Peach?
Yes?
Livingston?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Ayers?
Yes.
Heaton?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Now, we also, thank you very much. We also have the related Kemper Campus maintenance report. Does everyone have that?
You don't need to take
Don't
it.
need to do that,
No,
okay.
so, that was just for information, so
Okay.
we'll act on that.
Okay. Moving along, we have new business, item A, first reading of bill number 2014-003, authorizing amending district projects in the Boonville Riverfront Transportation Development District.
An ordinance of the City of Boonville, Missouri, authorizing and approving the unanimous verified petition and election to amend district projects for continued transportation improvements in the Boonville Riverfront Transportation Development District on city property as ordered by the Circuit Court of Cooper County, Missouri, submitting the election results to the Clerk of Cooper County, Missouri, providing an effective date therefore, and repealing all ordinances in conflict with this ordinance.
Thank you, Mary. Item B, consider resolution number R 2014-02, naming the circular road through Rolling Hills Park, Bud Kemp Boulevard.
A resolution of the City of Boonville, Missouri, approving the naming of the road through Rolling Hills Park, Bud Kemp Boulevard, authorizing a change of address of Rolling Hills Park from 1040 Ashley Road to 1 Bud Kemp Boulevard, and providing an effective date therefore. Whereas Bernard Bud Kemp was mayor of the City of Boonville, Missouri from 1990 to 2002, and made numerous contributions to the growth and economic development of the city, including securing the casino development for the city. And whereas Mr. Kemp was a proponent of developing city amenities to improve the quality of life and recreational opportunities for all, and was instrumental in collaborating with the state of Missouri and private investors to capitalize on the Katy Trail through the city and across the river. And whereas the naming of the road within the Rolling Hills Park will provide the current citizens of Boonville and future generations a reminder of his leadership and persistence to make the city of Boonville a better place to work and play. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Boonville, Missouri as follows. Section 1, that the road through Rolling Hills Park will be named Bud Kemp Boulevard. Section 2, that the address change will be properly published to change the address of Rolling Hills Park from 1040 Ashley Road to 1 Bud Kemp Boulevard. Section 3, this resolution shall take effect and be in full force from and after its passage and approval. Passed this 18th day of February 2014 by the City Council of Boonville, Missouri.
Mark?
Mayor, I move we approve this resolution.
Second.
Thank you, Morris. Any discussions or comments?
I have a question. So is the road going to start right at Ashley Road, or is it just the circular part of Rolling Hills Park? Or does it start out by the flower pots on Ashley?
At Ashley.
At Ashley.
Yeah.
And goes down and then around the circular? Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call.
Kelly?
Yes.
Meadows? Yes. Beach?
Yes.
Livingston?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Ehlers?
Yes.
Heaton?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations. A lot of the Kemp family is here, so be sure and tell Bud. So, I would like to schedule a little event in the spring if we could, maybe when we put the sign up. And I'm hoping that Bud and all of his family could be there, so I'll ask Gary to kind of coordinate that with, and ML. ML's the street part, so if you could kind of coordinate that, we'd be very pleased to have that happen. Okay, thank you. Reports of standing committees, Street, Alley, and Sanitation Board. Mike Cornoa.
Yes, we discussed the large vehicle parking restriction requested for High Street section by the bed and breakfast and tea room. And this discussion actually went on a lot longer than it applies with the small paragraph that's there. Some people had driven by there to try to see if there was any obstruction like was identified in the complaint. Haven't seen that happen very often. It seems like it's a rare occasion that we can tell, and without any further information, it was left for lack of motion. The second issue was on the speed limit idea of changing 45 to 30, leading into Highway 70 intersection where the fast food restaurants and the future Casey's will be. Again, a lot of discussion. People have gone out there, the board members have gone out there to look at that and try to see if it would, if the traffic patterns and so forth really called for that. And the bottom line was that they wanted to wait until 6 weeks after the Casey's was in place to see how it would change the traffic flow before they made a recommendation which way to go on that. So that is deferred, if you want to put it another way.
Any questions? I was very impressed with the Street and Alley Board's decisions. I felt like they did a very good job of discussing this and took a very rational viewpoint on it.
You have a lot of people on that board that have a lot of experience in this
Yeah.
town, and that's helpful.
Yes, very good job. Okay, Board of Public Works, Ned?
Normal meeting. Really, the only substantial business was Mr. Crook from CCBC came to appeal his water bill. He'd had a substantial water leak at the building, and his appeal was refused, basically because the water was gone and it was used. So that was the majority of the meeting.
Okay, any questions? Police Board, Steve?
The meeting was centered around budget review and vehicle purchases for the next fiscal year.
Any questions for Steve? IDA, Mark, and the MFA, Mark?
We've actually discussed some of this. The AdNorm group has made a presentation to the IDA, which spent a lot of time asking questions and developing some information, which their next step, since they couldn't make that kind of decision, was to ask for a presentation, which I believe they're going to schedule that with the city council at some point. The other thing was discussion about the economic development, and I think that everybody had the opportunity, if they chose to do so, and had that in by February the 15th for the survey. So that was a combination of several different groups, because that's a document, again, that is due 60 days, I think. So that's something you'll see come forward. And in the other one, the municipal facilities, they talked about the revolving grant, and I think we talked about that last time as well. So any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Reports of city officials, city administrator, Earl?
I have nothing.
Okay, Mayor. I just have one. Oh man, I've probably lost it now. This weekend, we have a lot of good things that go on in our town, and I think a lot of times we get so bogged down in everything else that we don't stop and really smell the roses, and I think we have a lot of roses in our town. So one of them this weekend was Love Notes Opry, and it was so much fun. If you did not go, you missed a really, really good time. And I have to compliment Mr. Steve Young, who lent his construction expertise, and maybe other expertise, I don't know. So that was it. So it was a good time, and it was just a good thing for our community to get together, and we really need more things like this where we have fun together. So let's not forget that we got a lot of really good things going on. We get, like I said, we sometimes get bogged down in all these huge decisions, but a lot of good things going on. City Councilor?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay, City Clerk, Mary?
Just a reminder that I still have about 3 tickets left for the Boonville Prayer Breakfast that'll be held this Thursday on February 20th at the Knights of Columbus Hall. If anybody's interested, please see me on the tickets.
Okay. Miscellaneous. Morris?
I think there's been a question come for the city staff with reference to the MFA building down here on Water Street. It's up for, or it's being sold to Neighbors Helping Neighbors. And I think they our city planner needs some direction from the council where to go on this. So if she could, I'd like for her to explain to the council exactly what's going on.
Sure, thanks, Morris. We were approached about 10 days ago by a title agent who was doing the workup for the property. If you know, the MFA property, old MFA property down on the river is really made up of two components, the old granary and then the actual office building. Neighbors Helping Neighbors has got that under contract for the office building and the parking area around it. Through the title review, it was determined that there is a right-of-way. The 6th Street right-of-way still exists in the middle of that property. And it probably never came up as an issue when the property was owned by one entity. Well, now the property is being split off into several lots of the original piece. So the question has really been presented to the city as to vacating. The request was made to actually vacate the right-of-way. And you don't vacate right-of-ways lightly. All right, so I think it's an issue that probably needs to be discussed at some level with the city staff and maybe the street and alley board, maybe planning and zoning. This particular right-of-way is important for any possible use on the river in the future. And we have several options to deal with this question, and Earl and I have both had several conversations with the Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and obviously are very supportive of them. This is actually really quite a perfect property for them to have, and obviously want to do everything we can to facilitate that transfer. And I think there's several options from a legal perspective. We can do nothing. We don't have to do anything particularly. We could do a modification of the width of the right-of-way. That right-of-way right now is 75 feet wide. All right, so we've done partial vacations. We could vacate the entire right-of-way, which means the city would no longer have access to any future opportunities with the river in the future at that location. And the question would have to be discussed a little bit more, because when you vacate a right-of-way, you normally give half to one property adjoining and half to the other property adjoining. So there would have to be some discussions as to how that would be done in this particular instance. The other option that you have is you can do a license for a use, of course, which would be recorded at the courthouse, and so that license would then follow the property. The city would still maintain and own the right-of-way, and a license could be granted for purposes of parking, which is basically all we really want to do, is just to be able to have access to the parking. So those are the issues, and folks have brought up the issue that, well, the 6th Street right-of-way has already been obstructed because there's a old shed that's actually down there on the 6th Street right-of-way at the very end of Water Street, on the south side of Water Street, which I believe is currently a leather shop owned by David Oswald. But that's really not the issue. The issue is we don't know what's going to happen. The city doesn't know what's going to happen 20, 50, 100 years from now. There may not always be a railroad track obstructing the river. So the issue is the right-of-way access to the river. There are a number of possible right-of-way accesses to the river that we have along the river section where the city has. So I think those issues need to be looked at and evaluated. Apparently, the problem that we're bumping up against is not really an understanding what the options are, or having a working relationship with the parties that need it. I guess we're under a time constraint. This piece of property is supposed to close on the 28th, and there are apparently some reasons for that. I'm not sure that we can get all that evaluated between now and then. We might be able to take it to the Street and Alley Board on the 26th, but then would not have an opportunity to come back to the City Council for any further discussion. My understanding is that there is some desire on the part of the parties that they have a general sense that the city might be willing to work something out so that they could at least have access to the parking all the way up, that the city would be interested in granting either a license or some kind of vacation of the right-of-way. We've expressed to them that, until you really present a formal presentation to the City Council and do that, you you're not going to really have a definitive issue. And I'm not sure what a title agent or a bank would do with a consensus decision from the city council as to that. But they were asking that at least be brought forward and some general discussion be placed on the meeting minutes. That's what I know so far.
Mike?
Sounds like the easiest approach where no one loses, everyone wins with them using parking is the licensing approach. It's the quickest way to bring it up. No vacation is done, and then we could proceed pretty quickly, and everybody has an opportunity to do what they want to do in the meantime. Is that not the easiest and quickest way where the city doesn't give up anything in the long run?
Negotiating a license is never particularly easy. The language of the license will have to be evaluated. And I've already expressed to the parties that I don't work for them, I work for the city. So we would have to come up with somebody to negotiate the license on their perspective. But we have some pretty standard language issues we can work on. And it will take less time. A vacation is a statutory creature and requires approval not only by the city council, but also an approval by the county commissioners. So a vacation would take several months to get through. So a license would probably be quicker, but not necessarily easier, particularly since the other parties currently do not have an attorney or someone working on their behalf.
Excuse me.
Ned?
Yes. Can I clarify that? You're asking them to write up the licensure?
Not necessarily. I hesitate to work with unrepresented parties and take the lead on an issue that's really not a city issue. I prefer to work with somebody that's, Mandy Eichelberger is the title agent. She's obviously not an attorney, but can, represent several standard kind of language. But there's a couple issues here because you're working with another party. All right, Gene Beach, my understanding, still maintains the ownership of the granary. And so what is their access to that area that's now currently the right-of-way? So just have not gotten to that level of discussion to be able to really opine as to what's needed in a license.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, finish.
Sometimes legalese feels like obfuscation. And it seems to me that in this case, Megan, it looks to me like Mike's idea is simple and it's straightforward, and it does retain control by the city. Do you think there's a way to make that happen?
A license for use? Yes, absolutely.
In the time that's left to us?
Between now and the 28th?
Yes?
Without your approval?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Let's say if we approve it, we say, let's do the licensure. We do a motion and a second and everybody says yes. Can you get that done for them in that time period?
Probably. I mean, knowing what I know right now, I mean, we're going to have some questions answered with the parties if they're willing to come forward and answer those and participate in negotiating a license, yes.
Okay.
But the license will still need to come back to the city council for a vote, the actual document.
Right. Yeah, which we've got, we're not going to have a meeting before the 28th, are we?
Nope.
Jeez, that's too bad.
Mark?
I guess my question would be, and I understand in a lot of items that we deal with, there's a negotiation between what we would want and what they really want, and you end up with some form of document, and that was your comment about having somebody else to deal with. But in a case like this, I would almost perceive it as, here's what we're willing to do and that's it. And you either take it or leave it, and if you don't want to take it, then I guess you'll do something different without us. And so that would be, I guess if we were going to move forward, I would say that I'm not sure that they necessarily have an opportunity to negotiate so much. I mean, we're going to be as fair as possible to protect our rights, and either it's satisfactory to them or it isn't. So,
Becky?
Megan, you started out by saying one of our options was to do nothing at all.
Potentially.
So what does that mean for us if we don't take action and they go ahead with the sale?
Well, I'm not sure they can, I can't anticipate what the title requirements are. I don't know what those are without talking to somebody. But we have a right-of-way, and that right-of-way is posted, recorded, and can never be acquiesced. Okay, you can't have squatters' rights on public property. Doesn't happen in Missouri. So they could probably continue to use it as a parking lot, that they would just have no legal right to do it. We would have no legal right to say how they do it. So, you know, it's probably not an optimal situation, particularly in light of what's going to be done down there with large trucks, potentially, people loading and unloading and things like that. So you probably want to maintain some control. Plus, there's the issue of the property on the other side that's yet to be determined, I think, what's going to happen down there in the future.
Noah?
Well, you might have just answered it in part. I was going to ask you to expand on conversations you had with them regarding this deadline. Have they indicated that the mortgage won't happen without it, or the title company won't insure it without something being done? I mean, has there been any indication, or they won't close on the 28th unless they have this resolved? I don't see why we're up against a hard deadline as far as the city's concerned. What have they expressed to you that makes you believe that we're up against a hard deadline?
Only really what the parties have said to me, that that's the date that they had set. They really wanted it closed like for that. They have plans for the move-in, and the Neighbors Helping Neighbors is trying to schedule that. And I think, frankly, the other party wants their money. So
But I mean, they haven't said
no.
the deal's not going to happen unless we vacate.
No one has made that comment to me. No.
Well, I, for one, don't think we should rush into anything, because I think it is a more serious matter. Just can't vacate it, I mean, without really considering it. And even on a license agreement, certainly it has to come back to this council, and we're not going to have a meeting by then. So I think the way it's looking, nothing's going to get resoluted by 28th of February.
Well, I'd be more than willing to, like I said, continue to work on it, work with the parties, expedite where I can, and continue to work down the issue. Probably sounds like more of a license than a vacation, but I would like to take it to our esteemed members of the Street and Alley Board on Wednesday the 26th. They've got a good handle on these issues, and depending on what issues they come up, and we might even take it to planning and zoning from a developmental perspective also.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah, I would feel a little rushed to make a judgment this evening, so if you could pass that along to the Neighbors Helping Neighbors.
Thank you very much.
Any other miscellaneous? Thank you, Morris. If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Lost my voice.
Second. All those say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.